Hi guys, Nick Thomas here at the Academy of Historical Fencing. So you hear me ramble on about swords and swordsmanship all the time on this channel, but the other thing I do spend most of my time doing is writing books. So when the first book in this series came out a few months back, I made a video about that and talked about putting swords and swordsmanship into novels, into fiction. And I want to talk a little bit more about that because tomorrow this book comes out, the second book in the series. So I've been a writer for over a decade now, and traditionally I've written science fiction. But as you know from this channel, I've always had a massive passion for swords, swordsmanship, and military history, and specifically British military history and of the Napoleonic period. So with this series, I have been able to combine all of my passions together, which is awesome. And not only is it interesting to write, if not challenging, because the research required for writing historical fiction is a completely different league to science fiction, but it is really fascinating and eye-opening at the same time, because I've been learning even more than I ever did on my previous research, which is great. But yeah, here's the first book. So Cravens War, A Call to Arms. So this one came out back in the summer, and people seem to really enjoy it, seem to like it. It's some people compare it to Bernard Cornwell's Sharpe series, and I will be influenced by that because I love the Sharpe series, but I've tried to not copy it intentionally. It's designed to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more swashbuckling than Sharpe is, not sort of quite so gritty, I suppose, in some regards. So it's designed to tell the story of the Peninsular Campaign and the wider Napoleonic period and the Napoleonic Wars, but also do it in a fun way. So large events are going to be very realistic, but smaller events are going to be, a little bit more open to interpretation and to have a little bit of fun with. So Craven's character is a prize fighter from England, so a good swordsman who has travelled to the peninsula to make his fortunes, or at least that's his plan. So he's a bit of a rogue, a bit of a gambler, a bit of a drinker, and a good fighter. And yeah, that's the story. And the first book kicks off in 1809 as Wellesley's army, the British army, is marching north from Lisbon to Porto to basically kick the French out of Portugal and ignite what is basically the second stage of the Peninsular Campaign. And the second book is the road to Talavera. So that's not going to ruin anything because you can see the book descriptions and you can see what that's about. So yeah, we get to go on to the Battle of Talavera, which is, one of the most famous battles of the time period. So it's awesome to actually delve into that a little bit. But it won't ruin anything because there's so much more to the story than just that. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. And I'm using this as an opportunity to push people to be enthusiastic for British swords, British swordsmanship, Napoleonic swordsmanship. So I'm throwing that in there. There's a lot of sword usage in there. There's instructional elements in there so that, gathered around a campfire and one character is explaining to another how someone is being taught to use a sword, so that the reader, even if you don't know anything about swordsmanship, or maybe you're in HEMA but you don't do sabre and spadroon, or you don't do Napoleonic swordsmanship, whatever, it's teaching you along the way. It's not awful, it's not going to grind you into the dust, and you're not going to spend forever trying to work out what British military swordsmanship is when you're reading this book. Don't worry, it's not going to be, like Tolkien's songs or anything like that. It is designed to be fun and inclusive and interesting and accessible no matter what your level is in terms of military history, swordsmanship, anything like that. So you don't need backgrounds in it or anything like that. It's just designed to be fun and interesting, and hopefully people will learn along the way as well. There is a lot to learn within the book, but it's designed to mostly be fun, and it's going to include an awful lot of sabres and spadroons and broadswords and eventually cutlasses, because the tiny little taster for book 3, there will be some small naval engagement in book 3, so there'll be some of that as well. Anyway, that's Craven's War. For me, this is a great time because tomorrow marks the 11th anniversary of the first ever release of a book for me as a writer. So the first ever actual published book, which actually was Zombok, the Survival Guide, and it was just a few months later then that I moved on to fiction. And yeah, so it's been 11 years as me for a writer, almost entirely science fiction, and finally I've tapped into what I actually have always wanted to really do, get some historical fiction going. And it's a hard thing to move over to because people, my fan base, they've known me as a sci-fi writer, and I hope they've really enjoyed that work. And incidentally, I've so often drawn on military history and military combats from historical periods to influence my science fiction, from the wars to the battlefields to the weapons. There's been a lot of influence anyway, even if people haven't necessarily noticed it. And yeah, so the second book, which is this one, Into the Fire. So this one comes out tomorrow on ebooks, and on paperback it's already in stock on Amazon, so this is the first copy ever. But it is in stock to order now, so you could have it by tomorrow, and tomorrow you could buy the ebook as well. And audiobooks are on the way for both of these, but it takes time because I'm not an audiobook or a sort of narrator, so I don't do that myself. It goes out to tender and whatever else. So there is an audiobook for the first book being worked on, but it takes time, but it is on the way. That is Cravens War. Please do check it out. And if you do read it, either one of them, please let me know. Check on some Amazon reviews, send me a message on Facebook or on the YouTube channel here. Just let me know what you think of it, because this is a passion project for me. It's more than just work. It is as much as my humour is a passion. It's way more than the work that goes into it. So yeah, lots of swords and swordsmanship, swashbuckling adventure. Should be good fun. Let me know what you think of it. Thanks for watching, and please do subscribe if you haven't already.